Hey listeners, it's Paul Andriola here. Why not join our community at Small Cap Discoveries, where we offer our members direct access to some of the best microcap investment opportunities available. Our members are getting access to premium microcap financings, research reports, and direct access to management. Sign up today at www.smallcapdiscoveries.com.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Small Cap Discoveries conference call. Today in our call, we have CEO Todd Ziniuk and CFO Amin Ladha of Zedcor. Zedcor trades on the TSX Venture Exchange under the symbol ZDC or ZDC and on the OTC under CRFQF. The company is trading at 36.5 cents with roughly 58 million shares outstanding or a $21 million market cap. I'd now like to hand it over to Paul Andriola.
Great. Thank you, Trevor. Yeah, good to have both Todd and Amin with us today. Trevor and I talked to you guys a couple months ago to really get a good understanding of what Zedcor is all about. You guys have gone through quite a significant transition. So certainly happy to have you guys here and happy to have you tell our listeners your story. You've got a presentation ready to go. Why don't I just hand it over to you, Amin?
Sure, sounds good. We got our standard disclosure page here. I'm not going to run through it. It's pretty common. So this is kind of our high-level pitch that in an increasingly dangerous world, we're trying to make security solutions more accessible. Todd, I don't know if you want to add anything here. It's kind of our passion is to find solutions, send them out to clients, and make everything better and easier.
I think the key thing here is why we went with the name solutions is we want to, we'll give any client any different solution, right from boots on the ground to cameras on buildings, mobile security, they're on and so forth. That's why we went with solutions instead of a security technology company. We use a lot of different technologies for the different applications that are required.
Perfect. Next slide just goes through our guiding principles. We kind of live and die by this. The biggest one is, like Todd said, we're using a whole bunch of different technologies, but we're trying to solve tomorrow's problems today. We're using unique technologies to deliver tailored solutions, reduce costs, and ensure asset integrities. Like we're on some of the biggest projects in the world, and we're very proud of that. And then I think the one I like the most is that we're honest. A lot of security companies kind of come in, promise you the world, and promise one thing or another. We like to say, we like to provide an upfront approach with our customers, our shareholders, and with each other. This slide kind of goes into our advantages of how we're a little bit different and how we kind of pioneered some of the mobile infrastructure security. So before it used to be all kind of boots on the ground, security guards, very standard cookie cutter stuff, and very expensive for large projects. So what we took was we took our light towers and we put cameras on them and we set up a command center and we allowed the security to be mobile. So one of our service lines, our biggest service line, is we rent security towers. We stream the video back to our command center and we watch that 24/7. And then based on each client's unique needs, we could respond to that. And we could either call the security guards on site, or we could call the police, or we could follow the instructions that our clients give to us. And then a growing aspect of the business as we get more and more traction is our fixed security side. So we go and install cameras, or we can take over cameras that are already there, stream the video back to our command center, and again, provide 24/7 coverage. Whereas traditionally you would either have a roaming security guard who would watch an industrial area and try to cover off as many businesses and charge them a much higher fee than we are, or they can have dedicated security guards for that location, and that becomes expensive. Todd, I don't know if you wanted to add anything.
Well, one thing I will add is we entered the business at a time that the whole security industry is kind of changing. For example, a lot of skyscraper buildings, they have a room with cameras that are feeding back to a room, a guard sits and watches them. Something that's changed from CCTV, which is closed circuit cameras, is the IP addresses and cameras, which gives you the ability to stream you could stream the cameras to anywhere in the world, right? So that's what cuts us apart. We've come up with a command center full of people. We stream it, and the ability to go back and look through footage it's a matter of minutes. You can cover 8 hours just with our different AI technology in it. So we've entered this at a time where a lot of people have cameras on buildings. They don't even know the ability to what they're quite capable of doing, right? So it's made us, goes back to being the innovators of how, for example, our mobile security, we have a cell, basically every tower has a cell phone in it, and that's how we stream back through the cellular or satellite, right? So it's been quite a pivot in the whole security market. And I would say for sure we are the largest fleet of mobile security towers in North America. Go ahead, Amin.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things isn't on here is we're always looking to innovate and reduce costs and provide better service to the customers. So just last week, our director of IT was on a call exploring different AI software that allows us to reduce the amount of alarms and alerts we get in the command center, making those employees' lives a lot easier, and they could actually respond to actual issues rather than wind alarms or animals crossing a threshold or something like that. So always exploring new things. So this is our value proposition from a high level. We start with an initial security assessment. Depending on the client's needs, they either need mobile and temporary solutions or fixed and permanent solutions. And then that's always supported by our 24/7 live monitoring in the command center and or security personnel, depending on the needs. So I'll let Todd expand on this, but what really kicked off the Zedcor security side was a project between Edmonton and Calgary that is a pipeline running there, where we kind of pioneered their whole and reinvented their whole security program. We went on site, we said, hey, you can reduce your cost by taking these security towers. We can also provide you security personnel, but we're not going to provide you your kind of entry level $18 an hour person. We're going to provide you level 2 security, we call it, ex-RCMP, ex-military, ex-city police, that will provide better support, just given the nature of the project and the infrastructure that we were protecting.
No, absolutely. And it grew from that project to us. Our next project, we were discovered by Trans Mountain, which is 1,500 kilometers from Edmonton, Alberta, right down to Burnaby and Vancouver. So after we finished our first job, we took it one step further and came up with a sensor technology that goes on the pipe. It's a vibration sensor, can go on a sea can, can go on any piece of equipment. And as soon as that piece of equipment's even barely touched or moves or anything, it sends an alert back to our command center, and then we can zoom in on the cameras. Sometimes it might even be out of the view of the cameras, but we know somebody's there. Something's creating the sensor to vibrate. So it's been a lot of trial and error. We've got it very well streamlined now. I think on Trans Mountain today, we're running 2,700 sensors and a fleet of 135 towers out there. So it's been unbelievable how quick we've grown with the product, and how we're running a fleet right now of 175, and we actually just ordered 60 more towers. So it's growing very rapidly. Go ahead, Amin.
So these are our mobile and temporary solutions. So there's only a picture of 2 of them here, but we have 3 types. So we have a solar hybrid. So this is the example of solar hybrid. There's a solar panel that goes up here. I think they were just mobilizing this one, so they had to take it off. And this is supported by battery pack and a diesel safeguard. And then this is our fully electric unit. And then we have a hybrid unit as well that is battery and diesel powered for areas that don't have a lot of solar. And we're also working on a fully solar unit as we grow and expand. Like obviously in Canada, you don't usually have enough solar power to power everything. So we've kind of had to develop different solutions, but as we grow and expand, we're seeing some demand for the solar project, solar security tower as well. So that's in the works. Everything's supported by different types of cameras. So this was one of our older designs. You can kind of see the cameras here, and on the right with the electric tower, you can see the newer design. So we're always looking to upgrade the cameras, Up on top, it's kind of hard to see, but that's a pan tilt zoom camera. It has 360 degrees rotating ability. It zooms up to 500 meters, correct me if I'm wrong?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we could see a whole bunch of stuff. Everything's in HD, and we're always looking to use the latest technologies. On one of the next slides, you'll see the sensors that Todd was talking about. And I think the biggest thing on this slide is that it could be up to 73% cheaper than having just pure security personnel on site. So this was the environmentally friendly options that I kind of skipped ahead on, but you'll see the full security panels, and this is the fully electric unit on the bottom right there. Everything's equipped with LED lights, so that reduces the power consumption. And honestly, the biggest reason we did it is it reduces operating costs. Like solar makes sense. The engine turns on for an hour a day as opposed to 24 hours a day. So less moving parts, less everything, less fuel consumption, etc. And this slide talks about our fixed and permanent solutions. So if you have a yard, we'll come in. If you're trying to protect high value assets, whatever you're trying to do, we'll come in, we'll design a system for you. We'll install the system. We started hiring our own installers before we were subcontracting it, but now we're finding out that it's way better to kind of control the value chain from start to finish. We'll program the cameras so that it streams back to our command center, and then we'll provide the monitoring and the aftermarket service. So we charged a kind of fixed monthly monitoring fee, and then I think Todd puts it best, we don't want to have this be a one and done. This isn't a project service line, this is a marriage.
Absolutely. And to touch on that again, like I was explaining about the buildings earlier, so it's easy to put cameras on buildings and you utilize their Wi-Fi. So we have the ability, like I was saying earlier, to stream by putting a satellite or through cellular, and we can do that on remote buildings. Maybe they don't have Wi-Fi. So that's the cutting edge part that's changed. We haven't created that, but just as where technology has went with these cameras, with the IP addresses, you can direct the traffic wherever needed, right? So that is the biggest thing changing in the security surveillance market. Go ahead, Amin.
Perfect. And then our big sales pitch here is we'll provide services from dirt to finish. So for example, we're watching warehouses being built in Leduc, south of Edmonton. They're building big Amazon warehouses, and we'll provide the services with our mobile security towers when they don't have electricity on site, so they could use a solar hybrid. After that, we'll come in and install the cameras, and then we'll watch it to the life of the building. And this was a sensor technology that Todd alluded to earlier. So these little sensor boxes you'll see on the green pipeline, those are vibration sensors, and you can see it kind of all the way along the pipeline there. And as soon as you hit that pipeline or anybody comes and touches it, it sends an alert to our command center. If there's a security tower there, we can zoom in and see if there's anything there. It might just be an animal hitting against the pipeline. Or if it's not within our view, we can dispatch the security guards on the pipeline. And we have all different types of sensors. We got vibration sensors, temperature sensors, moisture sensors, and the technology in these sensors is constantly evolving, but it's also evolving in the cameras. Like we just did a job for a customer that wanted thermal cameras because it was they were like a metal recycler, and the metal was getting too hot as they were storing it, and it was causing fires. So they wanted to be able to see the temperature. So we were able to install thermal cameras for them and support them that way. And there's all different types of cameras. So as Todd alluded to earlier, we want to be a solution provider. We're not going to try to go and invent thermal cameras, or we're not going to try to invest and spend that R&D dollars. Like that's big dollars that we're talking about. There's companies that are way ahead of us on that and do it better. So we're just trying to kind of leverage the technology and apply it to customers. This is a picture of our command center in Leduc. So everything streams back to this room. As the alerts pop up, we will respond to them based on the client's needs. So this map down here kind of shows our approach. You get an alert on a camera, you see the person, the video stream to the Zedcor headquarters. We'll either talk down to them on a speaker, like on a horn, and we've seen a lot of success with that. Like a lot of times these customers or previously will have signs that say they're live monitored, but they often aren't, and thieves know that. So we're actually live monitored. We talk down. It scares people that there's somebody actually watching, and oftentimes that deters them. And if it doesn't, we'll dispatch the police or we'll follow the client's protocols. And it's fully staffed. I think we're growing quite heavily in that side. So everybody's trained professionals. We're all constantly investing in that side of the business, and this is probably the heart of the business, and it separates us from everybody else. Like locally monitored service, a lot of competitors are kind of have it in Indonesia, or they're watching it somewhere else where wages are cheaper. We found that the best solution is that the police respond to local alerts. We have ex-RCMP on staff that are liaising with the local RCMP divisions and talking to them and letting them know, hey, we're dealing with customers here. If you get a call from us, chances are it's real. Todd, do you want to add something there?
That was great.
This kind of starts jumping into the numbers side of things. So the history of Zedcor, it used to be an oil field rentals business. We divested that service line in June 30th. Our financial statements will reflect that. And these two graphs kind of show you the diversification of the revenue stream. So 2020, we still had some equipment rentals revenue from the oil field side. So that's the black slice in the pie there. And then the bulk of the revenue, you'll see the dark gray and the light gray slide, or the pieces getting bigger. And I think I just want to caution kind of one thing is, while the red piece is getting bigger on 2022, it's kind of a misleading picture. We're just seeing so much demand on that security tower rental side. Like we're up to a fleet of combined units, probably 220 right now, and they're fully utilized. So there's a reason why it's growing. We haven't even started entering Eastern Canada. This is just in Western Canada that it's fully utilized, and 45% of the revenues are contracted with a major pipeline customer. So that was really exciting for us.
And then the smaller sliver there is referring to the fixed installs, which, to touch on that, like Amin was saying earlier, a lot of companies go in, put cameras on your building. They're there to make the money on the cameras. Once they leave, they're done with you. We're one of the largest providers right now in Canada of the access product. We have a partnership with them. We go in, we're not there to make big money on the cameras. We don't mark them up a whole bunch. We're there to actually, like Amin said earlier, we want the marriage of recurring revenue. We want to be with you for 10 years or even longer, right? We want the monthly watch fee, and that's kind of the side of the business it's growing slower for us because the focus has been on the equipment, but we've just amped up our sales team and our sales force. We've got a couple guys in Vancouver, one in Winnipeg. It's coming on quick and it's getting quite successful. So that's a very exciting piece of the business for myself, because I see the recurring revenue that it stays with the business, right? So that's one of the most exciting parts as well to this whole solution, right?
So we're hoping by 2023, as you gain kind of critical mass, that'll be about 20% of the business, 25% of the total business. This slide is probably a little bit dated. It's talking about at a certain point in time, all these term debt numbers have come down subsequent to the transactions. We are just kind of wrapping up conversations with major banks. So we're going to refinance all the historical debt that we had that was at high interest rates. And we're just kind of narrowing it down, taking the best option and really pushing the banks to give us the best rates. We're sick of paying the high rates, but this kind of highlights you'll see the debt go from March 31st, 2021 from 16 million to 4.6. And subsequent to that, we're even lower. So 58 million common shares, some pref shares, fully diluted, we're about 65.8. This slide just goes through kind of our geographic footprint. Again, a little bit outdated, but we do have towers working in Saskatchewan, and we have fixed install sites in both Manitoba, Saskatchewan, or all of Manitoba, Saskatchewan,
Yeah.
Alberta, and BC.
Absolutely.
The slide just kind of goes through our management team. Lots of experience in the equipment rental space and customer service. And our board of directors. So Mr. Wade Flesky was just named chairman subsequent to the transaction closing. Dean Swanberg, who's our largest shareholder, is still on the board. He just wanted to kind of step back and take a little bit of a lesser role, and Wade's helping us grow the company, and with the possibility of kind of leveraging his investment banking background and kind of getting access to the capital markets out east to really take this company to the next level. That's all done. How'd I do for time, Paul?
You did great. You did great. Right on target. Thanks for that, guys.
No problem.
Why don't we just jump into some questions and some comments here. I'll start by saying really what you guys have here is the ability to monitor, call it facilities or projects anywhere, right? Whether it's remote or whether it's, in downtown Vancouver, you guys can provide, in essence, monitoring equipment that in some cases, are hard to provide. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Believe it or not, we got a call from Africa.
So a little bit more remote, even further. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So give me a better sense. You did mention that one of your biggest customers is a pipeline company. Who is your typical customer? Like why would this customer need your services based on what kind of business they're?
Well, for example, the very first pipeline job we did, the one between Calgary and Edmonton, they had started the project, it got shut down, and when they fired it back up, but on the previous start, like prior to that, when they fired back up, what happened is somebody drilled a hole in the pipe, and they put the pipe, pulled it under a river, and they fill it with methanol to pressure test it. Well, it started leaking. So they don't know if it was somebody internally with one of the contractors or was it somebody against pipelines. They had no idea. So that's where they came to us and said, hey, do you think there's a possibility you could put camera technology on these? And even if we could just have it the recording, right? So we actually said we can take it one step further. We can set up a command center and we'll actually sit and watch it, and we'll have we had that particular job, we supplied ex-law enforcement to go out, and then we tell if there's anything suspect type people, we dispatch them over to that area of the pipeline. So that's kind of one of the biggest reasons they need it. Trans Mountains, well, as people know, it's one of the largest projects in Canada. It's got a lot of publicity all over the world, a lot of bad, a lot of good. There's a lot of different people against it. So, it's right from terrorism side of things to protesters to everything. So that's why that in the pipeline world, the clients need it. Take it to the next step. Like we watch school bus yards, thieves come in and cut the catalytic converters off the school buses. And then they show up next morning, there's 10 buses that they can't, obviously go to work with. Right. So those are kind of the different applications. The biggest one's theft or vandalism. But number one would be theft, right?
Yeah. To summarize that even a bit more, honestly, from the security tower rental perspective or the security tower, the mobile application, any infrastructure project is the ideal customer, whether they need 1 tower, 5 towers, or 100 towers, we're able to provide that. We started watching landfills, believe it or not. They don't have power. People break in and they cause a bunch of damage at the landfill.
You get the homeless people starting fires, and once you get garbage burning, it can get away. They one client, they had a fire in Kamloops, cost them $10 million, right? So that's kind of the choke points that we try to cut off, is letting obviously things get to that level, right? So it's very successful on that end.
And from the fixed install side of things, anybody who's trying to protect any dollar value of asset, inventory, or equipment, that's the ideal customer. Car dealerships, small shops, like we started watching vape shops, marijuana farms, pretty much anything.
So I mean, I'm trying to get a sense, because I mean, the big, you know, category of security is massive, but you guys aren't, you're a little more specialized. You're not obviously going after all security. So try to give our listeners a sense of what, I mean, what's your addressable market? Either, you know, let's pinpoint it to Canada right now. So geographically in Canada, what do you think is your potential addressable market?
Honestly, it's such an evolving business. The addressable market, I think, is the whole security space. Like we don't want to serve the businesses that, not to take shots at them or anything, that TELUS goes after. The small mom and pops where one owner is running it, they could monitor the alerts themselves. We want to go after the small and medium-sized businesses that have aspects of management running it, and they can't respond to alarms at 2 a.m. and it causes damages. From the mobile security side of things, I think any infrastructure project, whether it's a high-rise building in Vancouver or a 1,500-kilometer pipeline running between two provinces, that's our target space. Anything that doesn't have power on site or easily accessible power and wants security guards and wants to reduce their costs.
Okay, so, okay, perfect. So that kind of explains a little bit. It's, you know, power is an issue, right? You guys are able to provide self-powered units that in more remote areas or areas where you can't get easy access to power. There's a distinguishing feature. That's kind of what I was looking for, is something that sets you apart, why you're a little bit more specialized and able to, you know, sort of get the interest of the client. When you give us a sense of like the business model, like when you go to a potential client, what's the process from knocking on the door to when you've installed the product and generating revenue?
Todd, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, for the fixed side, you know, the business model is, we refer to them as a door knocker type salesman, door to door. Obviously, there's a lot of other tools through, you know, emailing, all kinds of social media. But for the fixed side, the key model there is going door knocking. And the one thing about a system that we use in our back end, we can federate their cameras in. So if they want to come with Zedcor, they don't have, this guy might say, well, I just spent $50,000 on these cameras. You know, I have nobody to watch them. Not a problem. We'll federate them onto our system. And the only cost he incurs there is maybe some licensing up front, which isn't big cost, and then the monthly recurring revenue of the watch fee, right? So that's a problem. People have these cameras, they come in the next day and, okay, well, let's see what happened. Oh yeah, there they were, they broke in the fence, did this, stole that. We're live verifying the yard 24/7. There's been quite a few different incidences where we're on the phone with the RCMP or the city police, and they're like, where is the guy in the yard? And our people are online. He's over there behind the CCAN. Thank you very much. They follow back up. So we're kind of the big brother eye in the sky. The other thing is it's an interruption to the whole market, because yeah, you can have two security guards. One might be sleeping in the car and doesn't see any of it. Now, from a liability standpoint, you have 5 or 6 guys that are going to come in and their missions to steal something. One security guy isn't going to stop them, right? So he's probably going to, you know, take off as well. Where we're, with the ability of a camera, you can always watch everything instead of one fella trying to see it from, you know, maybe he leaves and he's hiding behind the fence, but he knows, and he's on the phone with the police, right? So that's the big advantage. So to go back to the question, that is how it starts, is we go door knocking, you know, explain exactly what we do. People are very impressed by the whole side of live verified. They want to know that you're going to phone the cops in the middle of the night. Some clients don't want to be bothered. They just say, okay, you guys phone the police, deal with it, and fill me in the morning with an incident report. So it goes, we give full-blown reports, exactly right down to what time, what happened, when the RCMP were called. So that's part of the service as well. There's a big service component to this as well, right? So, and then as far as the equipment side goes, it's chasing infrastructure projects or all different types of projects. So, and then you have more of a corporate level type sales people chasing that. And then we have the mid-level that people going right out to the job sites, meeting with people. And then obviously, you know, the bigger ones, obviously myself, I mean, get quite involved, like with the Trans Mountain deal, we were very involved because it's at that point in time, you're doing a very large contract, right? The guy that's taking 5 towers, it's a little bit of a different deal. So, and the business model we're going with now is a lot of it's kind of similar to I guess a general rents business, like United Rentals or these, you know, they have all these branches everywhere. And like we just moved into the Lower Mainland by the end of Q1, we want to be out in Ontario. And you know, the beauty of it with us is a lot of our equipment goes out long term. We don't have to have 5 branches, let's say in a small area of Lower Mainland, because our equipment's long term and our salespeople can be anywhere, right? So it's a fairly feasible model we're running with. You see what I mean?
Yeah. So so let me understand. I mean, in some cases, are they sort of year contracts or multi-year contracts where you get paid a monthly fee, or is it more of a sort of pay as you go? And is there circumstances? I guess the fixed site, you know, they're purchasing equipment and then paying you a monthly fee, or is it all sort of that SaaS type of revenue where there's one monthly payment and it's the same all the way along? Just give us a sense of what that looks like.
So we have kind of 2 different models on the fixed side. There is the option to either rent equipment or kind of bundle that into the monthly price, or we can sell you the equipment, you own it, and we will charge you the monthly monitoring fee. Those are all on 2 or 3 year contracts.
2 or 3, okay. And the recurring revenue, you guys are obviously monitoring it on a regular basis. There's probably some other data fees and things associated with that, but give us a sense of what kind of margins you get on the recurring revenue portion of the business.
So honestly, I don't know if I want to give this information out. The margins are fairly robust on the recurring revenue fee. Like most of the time, we're able to tap into the internet that's already in place at the site. So there's very little data costs. The company has their own internet through Shaw or TELUS or whatever it's through. And we'll just piggyback on that and stream it back to our site. So the kind of the costs associated with that are the people in the command center and kind of the fixed costs that go with employees. And there's also some licensing on the software, but other than that, there's not a whole lot of costs.
Is it safe to say over 50% or under 50%?
It's probably a little bit over 50%.
Okay, so I see a smile on your face, so I get it. Yeah. Give me a better sense. As far as competition, I mean, there's a lot of players in you know, quote unquote, to the security industry, but who would you say are your closest competitors? So really what you do on a daily basis?
So the 2 biggest ones that we know about on a private basis that are doing kind of pretty much exactly what we're doing on the fixed side is a company called Stealth Monitoring. We're out of Toronto, but it seems like they're focusing on the States a lot more recently. So they have probably the biggest aspect of things. And then there's a company out of the Lower Mainland called Radius. I don't know their background. It's more like, seemed like they were a fire alarm monitoring company that morphed into a video monitoring company. And on the fixed security side, or the security towers, we're probably the leader with the biggest fleet of towers. There's a few smaller players that have about 5 to 10 units, but I don't know if they're supported with the back end of the monitoring center. There's one competitor I could think of off the top of my head. It's called Whitetail, or they kind of.
And then some companies just supply the surveillance, but don't supply the equipment. And then other companies just put in the equipment, and then they don't have the surveillance. So that's there again where we're a one-stop solution, right? We'll do we take care of it right from the start to the finish, right?
And as far as, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, obviously, you have the big players in the security space going after the kind of traditional alarm monitoring, where if somebody
Mhm.
breaks down a door, it sends an alert. They dispatch like your Telesis of the world, ADT,
Mhm.
those players. So they're competitors as well.
Yeah, different. Gotcha. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about, you showed the balance sheet. You sort of, you guys have done a fair bit of sort of balance sheet restructuring, and you're looking at replacing or refinancing the current debt that you have. I think I saw 4.9 million or so, 4.6 million in debt. You said that since then it's probably a little bit lower. I mean, are you able to manage it? I mean, give me a sense of, you know, your current revenue rate. What can you tell us about just the strength of the balance sheet right now? What you know, in context of what you need to continue to grow?
Yeah, absolutely. So the balance sheet, that's why we kind of sold the assets, was to be able to grow the security side. We got a whole bunch of term sheets from a variety of different banks. The monthly payments of that are going to be down to about 150,000, give or take. And our EBITDA is well above that. So we're definitely able to make the cash flow payments. We're lower than 2 times debt to EBITDA. So we're excited on the ability to be able to go and use the balance sheet for high growth areas, invest in security towers where we need, and if the opportunity arises, we will do an equity raise, a smaller one, just to kind of get, like right now the company's kind of tightly held. Dean Swanberg, our largest shareholder, owns about 27%. So there's not a volume, as you guys will have seen, and we want to try to generate some interest in the stock so we can start to use that vehicle as well, either to do acquisitions or to grow organically.
You sort of, you came close to answering 2 of my questions. So as far as insider ownership, what's the total insider ownership look like as on a percentage basis?
It's over 45.
Okay.
Between Dean Swanberg, Dean Shillington, Todd, and Todd's brother.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. And just general sense of the other sort of 55%, what would you say that sort of shareholder base looks like? Is it a lot of retail? Is it any institutional? Is it
It's mostly all retail. A few like kind of high net worth fund managers have their clients to it. So it's mostly all high net worth retail people.
Okay, gotcha. And the other question you almost touched on was M&A opportunities. You mentioned a couple of small competitors with a couple towers. Does it make sense to buy those guys out, or yeah? Let's answer that first, and I'll follow on another question.
Todd,
I think the equipment side, no, it doesn't make sense because they're using it for different application. On the fixed install side, I think there's obviously some companies that a guy could look at, smaller ones and maybe some key cities that we want to get into. You know, they've got some contracts of that recurring revenue, right? And I think that's probably the side you would more, where you're going to get more into that side of it, where you're buying them. But I think organically is probably the way to grow for the equipment, just due to the fact that, you know, we got the state of the art stuff, and some of these other companies, they don't have many of them. You know, that the stuff's getting old. What they have, we're light years ahead of them. So I think that's probably would sum that up. When you say me,
yeah, absolutely. I think if either somebody with a great brand in a city that we wanted to expand into, whether it's in the States or Eastern Canada, that's probably the best opportunity from a install side of things.
Gotcha. COVID. What kind of impact does COVID have on you, and how does it change sort of the future of your industry?
Honestly, COVID's kind of been a good thing for us, believe it or not. You want to elaborate on that?
Well, as projects had to shut down for it, they have to heighten their security, right? And yeah, you know, obviously the biggest impact COVID had is right from day one, we had to, you know, really follow some tight protocols because the people in our room, you know, they're the backbone of the company, right? So obviously I would say that was the biggest effect. Now, as far as work and revenue wise, probably helped it or didn't really impact us a whole bunch on that side of things. It probably made it better to some degree. It's lengthened some of the projects, right? Because they were shut down.
And I think going forward, it's probably a side effect of the COVID pandemic. we are starting to see some supply chain issues from
Oh,
our
yeah,
manufacturers'
absolutely.
perspectives.
Mhm.
Like you can't even buy a pickup truck anymore. So
Mhm.
on that side, it will have an impact on some delivery schedules for equipment, but we're trying to manage that to the best of our ability.
Mhm. Gotcha. And looking forward, what sort of areas of development, what sort of new products or new initiatives can you guys talk to?
So I think the biggest initiative is growing the fixed install side of things.
Mhm.
We're at 50 contracts right now. There's a bunch of different applications and opportunities, whether it's kind of our traditional oil and gas business that we have a whole lot of connections in. We don't want to forget about that, but there's an opportunity to watch well sites. There's an opportunity to grow that geographically. So that's kind of the biggest opportunity. We're hoping to be at 100 customers by the end of the year, ramp up the sales team, get into Eastern Canada. We're already in Winnipeg, and really grow that side. That's probably the biggest initiative, and then expand and continue to innovate on the towers
Mhm.
for the next 2 years, two and a half years or so.
What do you see as the biggest hurdles you guys face to move the business forward?
Probably,
Managing the growth.
yeah, you know, obviously we don't want to grow this too quickly. You
Mhm.
want to do it, you can run into growing pains quite quickly as well, right? So I think capital is, you know, as we go
Mhm.
moving forward is, you know, taking on the capital to where you're not getting yourself, you got to do it slowly enough to bring the revenue on as well, right? So
Mhm.
like Amin said earlier, you know, now we've got the company with the balance sheet in the proper place that we can take on a little more debt. Maybe we'll, you know, use the whole public vehicle for what it's meant to be there for, right? So
Mhm.
raise some capital. So I think the biggest one is exactly what Amin said, is managing this growth at a proper rate, right?
Mhm. And do you guys get into sort of working capital issues where, you know, you got to put up some significant amount for sort of CapEx, but if you're sort of renting it out, you know, you get paid whatever 2, 3, 4 months later. You know what I mean? Like you've got capital requirements offset by future payments. How do you deal with that?
So that's the conversation we're having with the banks. We're setting up an equipment financing facility just to help manage that growth. Like you said, we spend a whole bunch of money for equipment up front, and then we get paid back over the number of months to generate that. So we're setting up an equipment financing facility to help with that. And we also have our normal line of credit that helps with the inventory on the fixed install side of things and your day-to-day kind of 60 days sales outstanding.
Okay, good. Okay, well, you know, where do you see the business in 5 years? What does this company look like 5 years from now?
Want to answer that one, Todd, or do you want me to take a shot at it?
Take a shot at it and I'll jump in with you on it.
Honestly, it's just an expansion of what we're currently doing, growing geographically and going probably down to the States where the market in Canada is X and the market in the States is 10X. And there's more competition down there, but there's a lot more opportunity as well. So I think that capturing that market is huge, and there's acquisition opportunities that we would look at down there.
And I think, you know, at the end of the 5 years, obviously we want to be across Canada. And we want to do it at the proper pace. Even just in Alberta and British Columbia, I don't think we've even scratched the surface yet. And Ontario, I think is a great opportunity. Quebec could be a great opportunity. Every province, everywhere has the same problem. So I think it goes back to, you know, we got to walk, we don't need to run. Don't want to get ahead of ourselves and do it at a proper pace. And, you know, so many things can change on the speed of the growth on what's the next contract. You know, like Amin said, we've been contacted by a company in Africa, and it's a very large contract over there. Not saying we're entertaining it or where we're at with that, but something like that can change in just a matter of a couple months, right? And then, you know, I don't think it's too hard to get the capital when you got a great project papered up. So, you know, there's a couple different variables there, but yeah, and I mean, said it bang on. The goal is to get down into the US. The biggest thing we pride ourselves on is our service. kind of as the leader of the team here, I've ran service companies my whole life. It doesn't matter which business you're in, you got to provide a service. And I think that's the biggest thing in large companies that gets dropped, is that the excellent service, because it grow too quick. So I really push my team that at the end of the day, it's all about the client and it's all about us providing the proper service. So I think that's going to be one of our keys actually for success as we move forward in any product line.
Mm-hmm. And as investors, what sort of catalyst or metrics or just signs of success should we be watching out for to sort of know that you guys are, you know, executing on your business?
I think one thing we're probably gonna, you know, as like Amin said, we just got into the fixed side. We got 50 contracts. We're probably gonna be setting some benchmarks and press release and that as it goes. I think that, you know, I mean, would that not be one right there?
Yeah, like the internal KPIs that we look at for the fixed side is obviously the number of contracts, the length of the term, and the average monthly rate. And on the equipment, like the tower, the security tower side, it's just based on fleet size, utilization, and rate. Those are kind of your traditional KPIs for an equipment rental business, and that's what we are at the end of the day, kind of backed by a service.
Mm-hmm. Okay, perfect. Well, listen, I mean, we're about to wrap up here. What we always like to do is give you guys an opportunity to just give all the listeners sort of a parting message or a key takeaway that you want everybody to walk away with today. What would that be?
What I mean, no close on it.
Yeah, honestly, we're excited. I started probably at the worst aspect or the worst time. The previous CFO moved to Winnipeg, and I started in March 15th, right at the heart of the pandemic. And after cleaning up the balance sheet, it's kind of been exciting. Just before, we were always at the mercy of the banks. Now the banks are kind of at the mercy of us, so they're fighting for our business. And just growing the team and growing the geographical footprint, looking at new opportunities, new technologies. Like the guy we hired in Vancouver, he said the biggest thing that the contractors in there are looking for when they're constructing high rises is moisture sensors. Guess what? We already have that. Mm-hmm. It's taking that technology and finding different applications for it, and how we can grow and provide solutions for customers and better service for customers.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Listen, thank you so much, guys. If somebody wants more information on Zedcor, what's your website address?
Zedcor.ca.
Zedcor.ca. There you go. ZDC-TSX.V.ca. We've been speaking to CEO Todd Ziniuk and CFO Amin Lada of Zedcor Incorporated. Guys, I want to thank you so much for joining us today, and I look forward to catching up with you guys in the near future.
Thank you very much, you guys. Have a great day.
Thanks for organizing this, Paul and Trevor. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.